Hello, my name's Pete. This is my first video review. Today I am going to be reviewing Batman vs Superman. I've just got back from the midnight screening of it, and I thought I'd give you guys my views on it right away. Bear in mind it's my first video review I'm doing, so I may be a little rusty, not having had to actually do it before, but I'll do my best to quickly review this movie without giving out any spoilers or make it too technical, but I'll just give you a quick overview of what I thought my first impressions were. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Just to give you a quick backstory, I am a huge geek. I love comic book movies, sci-fi stuff, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. These are all my favourite kinds of films. I did love Man of Steel. I know some people love it and hate it. First time I watched it, I was sort of on the fence of it, and then the more I watched it, the more I really grew to appreciate it. In general, I'd say I like Marvel, I like DC, but I'm more of a DC guy. In terms of the comics, they're just slightly more my sort of thing. I find Marvel is very good, it's very fun, but for someone of my age, I'm like 34 now, so someone of my age I find there's a little bit more darker grittiness going on in DC sometimes, a few more interesting ideas, whereas Marvel tends to be quite light and fun. There are some exceptions to that, but in general, DC's more my sort of bag. I prefer the Batman films to like any of the Marvel films. I think Dark Knight's the best comic book film pretty much that's ever been made. So yeah, I would definitely say I've go more towards the DC end of the spectrum. So I did really like Man of Steel, grew me a little bit. And when I first heard about Batman v Superman, it's one I've gone through a lot of mixed emotions with this. Initially, I thought when it was first announced that Comic Con was a big fuss, and I was like, yes, this is great. I thought it was a really cool idea. A really good way to reintroduce Batman without having to retread old ground and still have Superman there. And then when I heard Ben Affleck got cast as Batman, I was like, oh, it sounds bad. Then I heard you adding Wonder Woman, and it sounded like too many different things. Then the film got delayed a year, so there were a lot of causes for concern and a lot of reasons to kind of think, is this film going to be overstuffed? Is it going to be too much? A little like last year's Age of Ultron was for me. It was just too many things going on, really. But I saw wait for the trailer to come out. First trailer came out, I liked it. Second trailer came out, I loved it. Third trailer was a little not sure about this, but then the very last trailer won me back over. So in general, I was very happy. I'd even been won over on the idea of Ben Affleck being Batman, which I never thought I would do, because after Daredevil, to be honest, I didn't think he'd do anything decent in a superhero role. So anyway, quick impressions about the movie. It's a really, really odd first review to do, really, because it's not actually a straightforward good or bad movie. There are things about it that are not great. My initial worries of it being overstuffed, to be honest, are well founded. I think one of the biggest issues right off the bat with it was the amount of stuff that was being crammed in. Like I was saying about Age of Ultron, it did that like I kind of worried it would, balancing all these different characters, balancing Wonder Woman, balancing Batman, balancing Superman. In terms of the pacing and the editing, it's possibly one of the worst paced and worst edited films I've seen. Like, bits of it had me like dumbfounded that they were cutting from one thing to another so quick, and for a long time there's vast stretches of it where you're thinking, where is this actually going? Like, there's bits of it that really drag, and bits of it I just honestly was like, what the heck is going on? It almost felt like it was a literal comic book. Like when you read a comic book, there's some comic books you read, it made me think of it like a Grant Morrison comic book, because some comic books you read of Grant Morrison, it really does skip out on a lot, and you read it and reread it, and you're like, have I missed some pages? What's going on? It felt like because the scenes were so bitty, it didn't feel like anything flowed one into another. And that part of it was kind of disappointing. So yeah, I couldn't say it's perfect, but having said all those negative things make it sound like I hated it, there was so much I really, really liked. Too much to basically just say this is a bad film and you shouldn't watch it. In fact, there was so much awesome stuff in there that I can't honestly say don't go and see it, especially if you're a DC fan. I mean, the stuff with Batman was absolutely awesome. I have to hold my hands up and say Ben Affleck, while for me not quite as good as Christian Bale, because he's always going to hold a special place, But yeah, he really killed it. He really killed it, both as Batman and Bruce Wayne. All his stuff was great. Some awesome fight scenes with Batman. It really was, for a Batman fan, I think what a lot of us have wanted to be seen from Batman even since the '89 one. Just in terms of the combat and the physicality, which hasn't really been achieved quite this way before. So yeah, Batman had a problem with, surprisingly enough, Wonder Woman, which I thought again early on was going to be a big problem. Wonder Woman I thought was fine. Gal Gadot did actually a good job. Even I wasn't too sure of her acting ability after all having been Fast and Furious, but the more I was seeing coming up to release, the more I was like, she could be good. She actually worked out very well. Again, it was the balancing of the story that was the problem. She was sort of in and out of it. The person who got the short shrift was unfortunately Superman, which is what I was worried about. There was so much heavy emphasis on Batman and so much emphasis on Wonder Woman. I was like, is Superman going to get sort of left out in the cold? And to be honest, he did. Like, it was a continuation of Man of Steel, and it was following on from what happened in that. But it seemed like they were more fixated on all the stuff from Batman's point of view. You got very little from Superman compared to what you wanted it to feel. So that's why certain beats of the movie didn't quite land the way they should, because Superman just wasn't there enough, I don't think. I think it was because of the bad word off Man of Steel, or the mixed word. They sort of went too much with Batman. It almost felt like Zack Snyder essentially wanted to make a Batman movie and just chucked Superman in there a little bit. I don't want to go into any more spoilers on that, really, other than to say I think Henry Cavill did a great job with what he got to do. He's still a really good Superman. In my opinion, the best since Christopher Reeve originally did it. And yeah, he was excellent for what he had to do, but it really wasn't enough for the balance of him being in it, I didn't think. The story does take its time to get going. At first, like I say, for the first half hour, there were certain bits where I was very confused what was happening, how it was relating to one thing or another. I will say that the last half hour, maybe 40 minutes, it does start to come together, it does tie up, and you do start to see, okay, I understand how this relates to that and that relates to the other. So it does all mean something in the end, but I think there was too much in the middle of the movie where I was just like not drawn into it. I was sort of visually, this is great, and visually I'm enjoying it. I had a little bit the same with Man of Steel the first time I saw it. It feels quite bitty. Now Man of Steel, the more I watched it, the more I really got into it, and I actually really love it now. So this could happen with Batman v Superman, but I don't suspect it will quite the same way, because this just seemed, again, Man of Steel was still focused on one character's story, even though it had other things going on. This felt like it was trying to be too many different movies, setting up Justice League as well. Although the little setup to that I did like. I will say, I'm not going to give away what it was, but there was a scene in there that really was like, oh, this is great. And that's it. For every 2 or 3 bits where you were like, oh, what's happening? This is a bit dragging it out. There was another 5 or 6 awesome moments. I mean, one big surprise to me was Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. Another kind of cause of concern for some people. I actually wasn't concerned when I first heard him cast, because I thought it was a good choice to do it. I thought it was a good, different sort of version of Lex that we've had before. When I saw him on the trailers, it did make me nervous. He was going to be too campy, and he is campy, it's true. But the thing about the tone of this is, same with Man of Steel, but definitely with this, is it's not a realistic tone. That's something you've got to really be aware of going in. It isn't realistic. Like the tone we used to get with Christopher Nolan ones, where it was pretty much believable as far as you could get for superheroes. This isn't that. This is cheesy, it's over the top. And to be fair, it's like that all the way through. It doesn't really hide it that much. I mean, it's still a bit dark. It's still got dark things in it. It's got some really good, like, deeper themes in there too than maybe you would think from Zack Snyder. But it is a cheesy style. Like, it gets so silly in some places that you're just like, this is definitely a comic book world. It's not a real world. And that was a little bit, again, of a departure from Man of Steel, where it felt sci-fi, but it also felt like there was an element of reality to it in that movie that I really sort of liked. And this just feels like, especially, again, no spoilers, towards the end, that's getting chucked out the door. Like, at the end of this, I'm like, this is full-on comic book reality. There's nothing like this. Like, no real pretense that it's trying to be realistic anymore. So given that, given the whole movie was very much like that, like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor portrayal was actually just in sync with everything else. It didn't feel forced like I thought it was going to. And actually his scenes were great. Like, I think he really stole a lot of the best lines, had a lot of the best things to work with. And yeah, he's a great one. And it's a good one for sort of world building and setting the stage for the things to come. Like I say, the little bit you see of Batman, the little bit you see of Wonder Woman was good. It just doesn't quite coalesce the way I wanted it to, or it doesn't quite hit the way you want it to. in certain places, but certain places are undeniably awesome. Like I'm saying, it's an odd one to say yes or no to. I'd say if you're a DC fan, yes. If you're a Marvel fan and you already don't like DC, there's absolutely no reason to see it. You're just going to hate it, I think. If you're someone who's just undecided and is like, yeah, I like Batman, I used to like Batman, or it's definitely worth checking out just to see this version of Batman, because obviously he's going to be in more movies and it does set up more things down the road that are going to be interesting, so it's worth seeing for that. As a DC fan, I did love a lot of bits of it, but I still, at the end of the day, whether I'm a fan or not, I have to be straight down the line, and I do try and be as objective as I can about these things. As much as I was looking forward to this film, and I do feel right off the bat that there were certain things it didn't get right. So I'm going to give it a very generous 8 out of 10. Really, it probably should be a bit lower than that, but I think it's getting an extra point just for some scenes. Again, don't want to give away spoilers, but there's certain scenes that were so undeniably awesome, it sort of bumped up a bit for me. Bear in mind, this is coming from someone who is a huge fan of both Batman and Superman, and really wants to see this DC cinematic universe succeed, because I feel it can offer something a bit better than Marvel. And I still do think that's the case. I still think that they're wise to stick with it, they're wise to keep going. I think Suicide Squad's going to be better. I always, to be honest, thought that. If Suicide Squad comes out and it's terrible, then I will maybe start to be like, well, maybe they should take a couple of steps back and rethink this whole thing. Looking like the way this ends, they're not going to actually do that. They're sort of locked in for the long haul. It very much leads into what will later be Justice League Part 1, which is good or bad depending on what you thought of this film. So yeah, that's my final analysis. Is I enjoyed it, but some of it didn't work, and main issues were pacing and editing, and also like some of the lines were a bit, some of the acting was a bit cheesy too. But in general, the rest of it, performances, everything like that was good. The action when it came was really good. But yeah, so I'll do maybe later on do it more in depth. Excuse me. Maybe I'll do another more in depth review later, or re-look back on it in a bit of time when I've had more time to sort of think about it. But for now, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So this has been Pete Gallagher reviewing his first review, which has been Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you liked it, please share it around. Bye!